What do you take for karpas?
Onion?
What do you take an onion? Arya, what do you take for karpas?
Yeah, onion.
Onion?
That's what the Rabbi did.
Oh, yeah, I didn't realize everyone here is kabad.
Potato, actually.
Use potato?
Hey, how are you?
And parsley. My father used potato and parsley.
Oh?
No, cheer.
Parsley? Use parsley?
My father used
Your father used to use parsley? Now I use onions. I'm a Chalabavitcher. Versteht sich, use onion. Alan, what do you use for karpas?
Potato.
Potato?
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
My in-laws potatoes. I always grew up with Lipsker having onions.
Onions, versteht sich, Lubavitch, okay? What do you use for potato?
But there's something called not celery because in Arabic it's breakfast is called like but so a lot of people use that.
Knob celery. Some people use celery and some people use parsley. It's brought from the Arizal. Zeloshin Abeno Arizal. It's in Sefer Time and Hogim. He says that when you take the karpas, you should take as a vegetable that's dafke, a certain vegetable, which is it's any vegetable. Toirehi, v'tzorech l'dayek l'zor lechel karpas dafke v'lo yerek acher. V'nikra b'loshenenu petrishke petrusilin v'gam loshen aravi nikra ze karpas. Upam acha shalti l'moire v'rebbe mekubel Rebbe Chaim show the week a Kohen Gadol. This guy is Rabbi Magolis, a brilliant guy. He's hoine roi kolkach la'och l'chai she'en mutem klal amali b'aram tzoiva. Where's Aram Tzoiva? That's Syria, right? Yeah. Godel Amina Karpas is a Beshurdish Godel Ve'ov, Ve'rochav Me'oid, Ve'roi Hu Lo'och L'chai, U'levaro Be're Bri Adama, V'gam Achsher Nimtze Be'yemeinu Nimtze HaPetrishke, HaGodel HaShurish Ve'rochav Gaz, B'chut Be'eretz Yisrael, Ma'adan Elikach Zay Karpas, Lotz Be'das Arizal. Anyway, so it sounds from that. Yesterday, someone was arguing with me at the shir that it's celery. So the truth is that Chassam Sofer brings that his Rebbe of Nosson Adler said that karpas, that the petrishka means the petrezilya means celery, but it almost sounds when you say petrezilya, it sounds like parsley. And this description this guy gives sounds like parsley. Anyway, so. The Arizal was medayik to use petrezilya, which either means parsley, or it means celery, or it means none of the above. I don't know.
Onions and potatoes. How do we get to onions?
How do we get to onions and potatoes? And why is Chabad using onions? It's like, so you're hungry, you sit down on the seder, you make kiddush, you get it, it's already starting to go up to your head, the alcohol. And then you can only eat less than a kazayas. You're supposed to eat now less than a kazayas of the vegetable. And eat a little potato is not that bad. A little piece of celery is not that bad. Oh, a raw piece of onion.
The kids definitely notice that.
Oh, the kids will actually
That's
notice.
the whole point.
Okay. So why use potatoes, not onions?
That's the minhag.
Okay.
But it's the same point. Who starts a meal with a potato?
Okay.
Or a parsley?
So let's read a little bit over here, and I want to. No, sure. I want to explain. First of all, just a little bit of a thing. My father, we have the pleasure that my father comes here every year in Pesach. My parents coming for Pesach. My father was zocheh to be by many of the Zdorim of the Rebbe. He used to come home after davening, and he used to make a seder like this. And then he would run to the Rebbe. He'd make like,
Like people do when they go to Rebbe's too.
Right.
They eat earlier.
Right.
They eat and then they go to his house.
The Rebbe did for many years did the seder in the second floor in 7-7. And there was a man that used to daven here, and he used to come to the kiddushim. Mr. New Year, Mrs. What's called husband. He used to cook a lot for a couple of years. He cooked Przansky, Mr. Przansky, because his mother was the cook in Lubavitcher Yeshiva. He said every year, yeah, sure, pleasure. Every year, the Rebbe would, before the seder, would walk into the kitchen and say thank you to him and his mother before they started the seder. Okay. So my father, just a few nakudas. The Rebbe used to take an onion, used to put it on the seder plate, an onion, a smallish, right?
Yeah.
You were there once?
No, but I heard it, Rabbi Putman was talking about it.
Oh, good.
He also snuck in.
So a smallish onion. In the Haggadah, the Rebbe says that that after you do kharpus, you don't have to leave it on the seder plate anymore. And that's what he did. He didn't leave, like some people think that you have to leave the whole seder plate, like
all the time.
when the Rebbe would finish with the kharpus, he wouldn't put it back on the plate. The Pasuk in the Haggadah he says b'shoshet matzois u'moror monochim lefanecha. It doesn't say b'shoshet yesh habatzel v'akarpas monochim lefanecha. We do the batzel, we do the karpas. If you do batzel, if you do whatever you do, but it doesn't have to be monochim lefanecha anymore. That's it. The Rebbe didn't put it back on his thing. The Rebbe used to first cut it, dip it in the salt, and then make the bracha, which is a little bit of a chidush davar, and we'll talk about this point another time. The main thing I want to talk about today is there's several customs on what we do karpas. If you're doing parsley, or if you're doing celery, or if you're doing a celery knob, or if you're doing a potato, or if you're doing an onion, what Chabad does an onion, and my question is why. And in the meantime,
does it matter what red or white onion? Is there a minhag by it?
I don't think there's a special minhag at that.
Wait, ask you a quick question. By when the Rabbi said this is what you make seder, so many questions. The Rabbi was there.
Yeah, the Rebbitzin and heard there was if you ever go upstairs, there's the main room, and in the side there's a smaller room, which is she sat there with her sister. A few women used to sit.
And who said the Manishana?
Who said the
whole thing?
There was a person that used to say Manishtana. There was a person that used to read the Agoda. There was a person that was. Ask my father when he comes there. Oh, you won't be. You'll ask him. Okay, let's read. Today is the Rebbe's Yemalad, this is Yud-Alef Nissan. So it's good. We're looking at the Rebbe's Agoda. Hakarpas. And in brackets, Oitapuach Adam, I am Mogan Avram, Simen Tofa and Gimel Sivdalo de Bachroinim. So let's read quickly the Mogan Avram. The Mogan Avram writes, Mashayalem. Okay, let's read it inside. Okay. אבל אתה תגיד את זה, המוגן אברהם יגיד את זה. אוקיי? אולי אברהם אברהם כיוון לדעתך. The Kosov Morgan Abraham, Kosov Mariel, Noyagim, Lika, Karpas, Shuno, Nutriken. Samach Perech, Koloma, Shishim Ribu of the Avodas Perech. Samach, you mamish read it backwards. Sometimes you read words backwards. You read it like you read English. Instead of reading it Karpas from the right to the left, you read it, Samach Perech. Koloma, Shishim Ribu of the Avodas Perech. Obiv, Mesupikim Likach. Petrezilon, again, we don't know what Petrezilon is, but whatever Petrezilon is, that's what I think. But yesterday, guys were giving me a hard time. They said it means celery. Okay.
There's cilantro, there's Pisidilia.
Okay, so.
What's the difference between them? This one has smell, this one doesn't have.
Okay, sure. So one person agrees with me. Vim came. So the Marid said his father was saying, this Petrezilon, it's good when you cook it. So that's when it becomes Adama. But when it's raw, it's not so good. So it's shahakals. How do you make Adama on it? So the Morgan so he says,
also you make shahakol. If it's still they're not red, so you make them shahakol. You don't make it red. Because they're not red with the matzah. The same thing here.
Right.
That could be parsnip.
Because the parsnip also here. I want to take it.
When a parsnip is cooked, it's very sweet.
That,
But with you don't cook, you eat it raw.
Right. ואני תום, לא מנהיגי במדצן ליקר פטרזילן, באפשר דספירה לוט שעדי הבוסר הם משביחים. You cook it with meat, it becomes better, but it's not really they become better. It's because the people cook it with meat. Because they used to make, in those days, in Europe, a lot of the things they made with like carrots and these things, they used to cook with meat. The Mashikosav Sham Bishem Tosis that have been a Yanadak Shenachalam Kalchaim of Arshakal, Shenachalam Chaim, Alpha Bishop Yesma Bushel Makambar, Shemchaim Body Priadam and Kenas Shapir. Also, there's an opinion that says if you eat it both raw and cooked, so they're both, if they're just as good, they're a little better when they're cooked. So they're both Body Priadam. So the Petrozilin still has the bracha Body Priadam. Mekomokim Daiti Choich. Why do they pick to take the petrozilin, which is a problematic thing, and I have to ask a question, how is it adama while it's raw? And I can answer that one answer, another answer. Why do I have a likach yerek acher? Why didn't we take a different yerek that's 100% beire pri adama, and when it's raw? Could be, says the Magen Avraham, they didn't have in Europe, in my time and in his time, they didn't have, that's what they had available, this petrozilin, whatever the petrozilin is. The Gemara says to take a yerek. There's things which are called lefes, which is lalafas behemes hapas. So they didn't, they vayerek shalom ein echolin k'moshu chai, elam ken kovish, and by us, the yerek, we don't have a yerek which is chai. V'zeni motze bePesach. And we don't have any yerek which is chai and motze bePesach. Betur beGemara Yisrael shegam amorim v'rebri v'tzarich loimer the mora shelahem ayroy lechel chai kemoi letach esa. We must say that the mora that they had, because the Magen Avraham holds that on horseradish there's zero bracha. There's no bracha on horseradish. So he said that's what the Magen Avraham holds. The Alter Rebbe paskins that way. Okay. So
why? Because it has no taste.
Because it's burn. You go, smoke comes out of ears. It's terrible. So he holds it. There's no bracha. We'll get to that in a second.
There's a health benefit. No,
there's a health benefit, but still. Right. Okay.
I think when eating with Mars, you make the bracha.
We making because we're eating on lettuce, but the Magen Avraham holds. So it's only a nafkamina.
Yeah.
If it's only a nafkamina, if today for lunch you had motor, because in the seder you already made a beire pri adam in the beginning of the seder that covered the motor. So today for lunch you're going to go and buy a horseradish and chop a few pieces and eat it. So the Magen Avraham says there's no brach. Okay, let me summarize what he said. So bottom line is, it sounds like the parpas the samach perech, they used to take petrozilin. And that was because that's what was available. But it seems from everything he's saying that they were trying to use dafka, a certain vegetable that is nechel kamoishu chai, that when it's raw it has the bracha beire pri ha'adama. He doesn't explain why it has to be a certain vegetable that's nechel kamoishu. Like he said, we have in Europe they had a lot of vegetables. What would they do in the beginning of the winter? What did they do in Europe? Yeah. They used to have cans, but not like us, like cans. They used to have it like in the basements. They used to have they used to have a kroit. They used to make a cabbage, pickle, all these picklings.
My grandpa.
You did pickling?
Yeah, we did everything. Home basement.
Whole basement pickling? Very good.
Watermelon.
Right. The Europeans had a bitter cold winter. They didn't have. And they didn't. It's not like Svardim who had normal food during the winter. They had no food during the winter. That's a bitter winter. So before the winter, no refrigeration. So they went in the basements, and they used to. So they had yirokas. The problem was that these yirokas were kavushin, were kavush kemavushel. They had sauerkraut. They had sour pickles. They had sour watermelon. We had a store here, if you remember.
The Russian store, you find everything.
Oh, that's like Gus's Pickles. Gus's Pickles opened up. You remember? I never got a chance to get even one pickle. They closed down that back. The pickle guy. Oh yeah, the pickle guy. Sorry. I know, but I never got a chance to go in. The pickles are good?
On Coney Island Avenue. They had it on Coney Island.
Down
They
at
had
Coney
it-
Island, I always said I'm going to go in and get myself a pickle.
They closed up. You're right. I went there. I did
It
go.
was good? It was good?
Yeah.
No, Lower East Side.
Yeah. Yeah, that's Gus's pickle. This is Mr. Pickle. But they had like 100 types of different type of pickles. Everything was pickled. In Europe, they used to have everything pickled. So they couldn't find a vegetable that's everything that pickled. So they couldn't find. But why were they looking for a vegetable that's nechel chai? What's important? Why is it important to have a vegetable that's nechel chai? Raw. What's wrong with making? You can't make a adama on a potato that's cooked. You can't make a adama on a pickle. And so cook the potato and make by the priyadama. So, but why? He said that they were looking for petroleum because that's the only thing that they had. Guy.
What about carrots?
So use carrots and cook it.
Carrot doesn't have to be cooked.
The Iranian, every time they eat, the Iranian is on the table, not cooked. And they make it a bracha because that's something ma'adan
Because they eat it. They like
They
it.
not nehene, so he make bracha levatam.
Right. Bottom line is we see here that they had vegetables. Elamai, he says that there was kavush, but the fresh one was not motzi. And the only thing that was motzi to them, fresh, was petroleum. Why? It was not in season, I understand. But why were they looking to eat a vegetable that's only eaten when it's raw? What's wrong with having cooked potatoes, cooked carrots, pickled cabbage, pickled pickles, pickled tomatoes? Who cares? So, first of all, I just want to read a few pieces over here. In the Rishima of the Rebbe, Chaveres Tzaddik, the Rebbe writes that he heard from the Friedrich Rebbe, B'mei Pesach Tov Reish Tzadikei Bevarsha, the Karpes botzel. The minute Chabad is to use an onion. Rak achkach nechlu shadoris lokho v'topuch edama. Avaloi hoyo admor marash savar otzam mizeh. The Rebbe Marash was not happy. One second. He didn't. The Rebbe Marash was not happy that they used potatoes. When the Rebbe sat at the seder in Tovshin Chav Zayin, there's a Rishima that the Rashag, his brother-in-law, asked him, and he said that wasn't the Minig and Lubavitch that they took potatoes? The Rebbe said, read the last three words in that paragraph. Zeh shayach lenashim. For women, they can't take a strong onion. For the women, it's good for the women. The cooked potatoes are good for the women. You hear, Aaron? For your wife, don't force her to have a potato. For the women, that's a no. Don't force her to have an onion. The potato. I do that at home also. For the women, for the children, cooked potatoes. Everyone's happy. They don't have any problem. For the women, it's a shayach l'noshim. When I saw this, I said I jumped because this is really what I've been doing for years without knowing. I said, yeah, it's good for the women. Pass some cooked potatoes for the women. Give them some cooked. Pass it over.
Yeah. I can understand by Mora that idea that the Rebbe says, but by Karpas, which is just to get something unusual, then it shouldn't be a taste factor, just an unusual factor.
That's what we're trying to figure out here. We see from the Magen Avraham that he says that they took petroleum. Again, we don't know what petroleum is, if it's this, that, or the other, but they tried to. Why? Because they couldn't find, and they had in Europe vegetables, but they were all pickled, and they were all cooked. They couldn't find Pesach season raw besides petroleum.
And garlic. About garlic.
That's what he says. Probably, and this is what I want to say. Probably in Russia, where Lubavitch was, the only thing that you can get at Pesach time easily, a vegetable that's nechel kamoishahu chai, was onions. All the other vegetables at the end of the winter, if you wanted to get it, you could get it, but they were all pickled. If you wanted to get and other things that last through the winters are maybe like potatoes, and potatoes have to be cooked.
And carrots.
So carrots, first of all, I don't know if they can last through a whole winter.
There's no
And also for them in those days, their attitude was the way it's brought in Shulchan Aruch, that carrots is only adama when it's cooked. So carrots and potatoes are the same thing for them, not today.
Yeah.
For them, carrots and potatoes were the same thing.
All right.
It was only adama when it was cooked. So the only thing,
What do you make of it wrong?
so the only thing they could find in Malorussia, in White Russia, and Ukraine, and Russia, in Pesach time, that is a nechel kamoishu chai, the only thing they could find was an onion. By the way, look in the next piece. Keinog b'chugim acherim kavor machkotza b'chayodam ayroks l'tibul lish noegim b'chol Ashkenaz likach olam in Petrezilya v'losh in Perl and Petrichke. Again, we're arguing what Petrezilya and Petrichke means. This is the fact that people are doing an onion because they don't have anything else. RIshon says similar. It's known in Miyerek Shebachas Adam et Tapuch Adam v'Achrenim Eskiru Shenog Elita Petrezilin ve'ein onu yoidim mahu. Yesterday people argue with me because they know for sure what Petrezilin is. So by the way, the RIshon says he doesn't know what Petrezilin is.
They don't know.
במסגרת השולחן הקיצור שולחן ארוך, מה שכוסף בקיצור סיב בייז והמופקר לקח את סנוינה בצולם רקים שבחוסם בית פרי אדמה ויש נוגן לקח תפוחי אדמה מבושלם. Okay. Now, I don't want to go into this. There was a beginning of the winter. I happened to, because last year, Pesach times, Rabbi Vigler asked me, someone walked into the shul and said, how could Chabad make Bari Pri Adama on an onion? You can't make Adama on an onion. A raw onion is not Adama. So I gave a sheet about this in the winter. I'm just going to tell the Nakuda. The Alter Rebbe says, and it's based on a Taz, a Chidush, that it doesn't, if you could, anything that's Ein Nechel Kamoishu Chai, but it's eaten with something else, like, for example, with a piece of bread or in a salad, so then the bracha, even when it's raw, becomes Bari Pri Adama. Because the logic is like this. You make the bracha on it when it's eaten the way people eat it. So if this is a type of fruit or vegetable that people only eat raw, it has its bracha when it's raw. When people only eat it when it's cooked, it has its bracha when it's cooked. So if people are usually going to take an onion and slice it and put it in a sandwich or put it in a salad, so that's nechel kamashu. So now, even if I'm going to eat it not with the salad and not with the bread, the bracha is still b'yde pri ha'adama. That's what the Alter Rebbe says. Again, I'm not going to go into the pilpulim here. There's people that ask shilas of the Alter Rebbe because the Alter Rebbe says that if you take a piece of horseradish, even though you could eat it with bread, if you eat it alone, there's zero bracha, but the difference is obvious because over there, 0 plus 0 is 0 because it's like taking a piece of wood and putting it on a piece of bread, mashenk and onion. That's true. So I don't want to go into that pilpul. I just want to remind you about it because we'll be nagay in a second. We gave a shir about it. What I left in the beginning of the winter to finish off today was this question. So the emphasis after I gave the shir, I saw an article from Reb Chaim Rappaport, the shliach in a rov in London. 10 pages, and Bemis is most of what I said. I was machav, it's very nice, but he leaves it an open question. Why is it we see talk in the Alter Rebbe that the Alter Rebbe is medayik? Look in the next piece. The Alter Rebbe writes, it has to be the type of vegetable that the brach is adama dafka when you eat it raw. In order to pata the morer. Okay, so the Alter Rebbe says the reason, sounds from the Alter Rebbe, the reason why we're medayik to have a raw vegetable, because when we have a raw vegetable, we're making adama, and we have in mind also to cover, when we make adama on the kharpas, we have in mind that bracha is going to cover also the morer. Which last week we spoke about. Also, when we make hamoitzi matzah, we have in mind the matzah for the koirach and also the matzah for the afikoyman. So, and we make the bracha and the morer, we have in mind also the morer and the koirach. There's a whole, all these things.
All have in mind that you watch that make a bracha. Make another one.
So now, we see. I'm not going to go in. I see people giving different pshatim. I'm just going to say what I think is the real pshat. One second. Very important. Let's see what's the pshat, what the Alter Rebbe is saying. In order to understand what the Alter Rebbe is saying, I want to read halacha, which we're going to cover this summer. So it's Ashgacha Pratis. Let's read in the Seder B'Chsanim. Kotze b'Seder B'Chsanim. Avalim lo yodaita lo b'shas habracha. If this to eat one apple, and he didn't have in mind to eat the second apple. Now there's another apple. If it's an apple and an apple, ain't tzorech lachzeh levarach. You don't have to make a second bite of priyayitz. Afila kol min harishon. Even if you finish the first apple, you threw the whatever it is in the garbage. another apple was brought to the table, you don't make another Boire Preis. It's not apples to apples, it's apples to oranges. If the min RIshon is still in front of you, if there's a piece of the apple still on the table and they brought him an orange, he doesn't have to make a Boire Preis. If the apple is already totally finished, it's not on the table, has to make another Boire Preis. If it's two total, it's not apples and oranges, it's apples and apple juice. Well, it's not apples and apple juice because it wouldn't work, but whatever. The bracha RIshon. Ein niftarim bracha achas elim kein ois a daiter lov or shelafon of shas a bracha. V'yesh shemrim no, you always have to have bedas. Safek brachas lahokal lechatchila tov lezor at least daiter kol ma she'yavoyu lo. Okay. Okay. One second. Hold on for another second. 1 second. So, I think the pshat is like this. It's very simple and it's mechudesh, but it goes into the words of the Alter Rebbe. In order for one thing to pata the other thing, it has to be apples to apples. If it's apples to oranges, you still have to have from the first apple on the table. Okay, so now two vegetables, and say a carrot and an onion. Is that's like an apple to an apple? It's the same thing. What's the difference? If I made a broch and a carrot, and I finished the carrot, and now you bring me a tomato. What's the difference? A carrot, a tomato. It covers it. But what happens if I ate a carrot, and now you brought me a cooked potato? Could be that the Poiskim saw that this is not exactly the same. This is not called, even though it's Adam on both, but this is not called Ma'oisay Amin. It's not apples to apples. This is cooked and this is raw. It's not apples to apples. When did we say that even the min RIshon is called lagamri? So the bracha, the first one covers the second one. When it's apples to apples, they're exactly the same. But if they're not exactly the same, the first one still has to be on the table. So therefore, maybe that's the pshat. And it goes very well if you go back to the previous piece in Al Rebbe. It should be a vegetable that the adama is on it when it's raw. In order that this will cover the motor, the adam and the motor. So based on what I'm saying now, it reads perfectly the words. It's a pirush amilis. In order for this, for the adam on the kharpas to cover the motor, it has. Remember what I said. The minhag Chabad is not to leave any more the onion on the kaida. That's the point what the Rebbe did. After he finished karpas, it was on the side. So it wasn't any more in front of him.
Not on the table.
So it could be. I don't know if it stayed on the table or not, but he for sure took it off his kaida. Why did he take it off his kaida? I don't know why. But before I said the pashtus. The reason it's not necessary is because it's only latmiya tenoikis. It's not shayach anymore. And the Agoda says b'shoshet matzo morer l'nochel l'fanecha. So the Agoda you have to say when you have the matzo morer, and maybe the other simonim are also still negeya beruchnius, but this one is not negeya anymore. It's interesting. According to the Rebbe, this is not negeya. He writes it in his Agoda. That's minhag Chabad, and that's what he did. So now they wanted could be. That they wanted, because the bracha by the Pri Adam and the Kharpes is supposed to cover the motor, and the motor must be nechel chai. If that's what it's very important. People sometimes soak the lettuce, right? If you're soaking the lettuce in salt, it's an interesting thing that.
No, that's not good.
Why is not good?
Because you kill them. There's no motor anymore. You take the top.
There's another problem.
The
Okay, now there's another problem. Yeah, that the otazoi is kavish kemevushel, and when you make it with salt, so listen, 2-3 minutes is not. But I'm just saying, that's something to keep in mind. The motor must be. It can't be. You can't buy Gold's horseradish. You can't buy the white Gold's horseradish. You can't buy it and use it for motor. Why not?
Because it has stuff in it.
Because it's kavish kemavushel. It's cooked. Motor has to be raw. So because we wanted that the brach of the karpas should cover the morer, so we want it to be apples to apples, just like morer has to be nechel kamoishu chai, and we wanted the bracha adama from the karpas should cover the morer. That's why the minig was to find the vegetable that the bracha adama is kamoishu chai. They had in Europe a lot of vegetables, the nechel kamoishu kovush oishu mavushel. But they were looking dafke for something that's nachal kamoishu chai. Now you understand why the Rebbe Rashab was upset that they gave the potatoes. And the Rebbe said, "Don't worry, it's good for the women, because in the Pashtus, they're based on the Magen Avram, in Lubavitch, in Minsk, in Aaron, where the state where you come, Kamenetz Podolsk, in Kamenetz Podolsk, they didn't have." Before Pesach, at the end of the winter, what did they have? They had a few pickles left, they had cabbage, these are all cooked. They had potatoes, but potatoes you have to cook in order to eat. So what could they have that's still there in the basement that's nechel kamoishu chai? Onions! So that's why they used onions. That's why they use onions.
All to come to all this skillfulness, I have a question that always I ask. Why you don't make a bracha first in the model, which is that, all right, and then the karpa will be motzi the karpa.
Well, the Gemara says, Taka, if a person doesn't have a yerek, that's what you do it.
Bracha first in the model, because the
Okay,
model
leave it. Hold it for a second. I just want to finish the thought here. Why Lapoil Minig Yisrael is in Chabad to use an onion. So why are we using an onion? So the Kloisenberg Rebbe had a thing in his Shuvas. He says that that's upshat that maybe the onions, the mile of onion is that it burns you, and we're trying to remember the shibud that the Yidden had, the Mitzrayim. So in order to, that's why the minig is to use an onion. Okay. So I was thinking based on what the Kloisenberg Rebbe said. Lidrish Kamin Choimer, to say like this. If you remember, when we learned the sugya, there's B'tzolim Rakim, B'tzolim Skeinim. B'tzolim Rakim, it'll help to eat it with bread. B'tzolim Skeinim, it doesn't even, because the B'tzolim Skeinim are so like, they burn you. So,
one more sharp than the other?
Yeah, when they become,
whose part is this?
Let me finish the word. The onions, when the Taz says that there's young onions and there's old, if you take the same onion, you leave it for a long time, they become so sour that they're terrible. You could hardly chew them. So now I would say like this: the Gemara said, the Poskim say that one of the first one of the five in the Morer is romaine lettuce. Romaine lettuce is not bitter. Romaine lettuce is very sweet.
only today, because they put
So let me answer what the Shulchan Aruch says. That what's the inyan of that? Because in the beginning it's not so bitter, but if you leave it in the ground for a long time, it becomes moiridik bitter, and that's merames to the paroi. That paroi, first he told the Jews, come, I'm paying you double, extra, I'm paying you overtime, I'm paying you, extra money, I'm paying you. So they all came and they worked extra hard, and they got paid extra. And they sat and they wrote every person how much they worked. And after a few days, they said, we're not paying anymore. But this is how we know how much every person could work. Does it sound like the United States of America? It sounds like the Golden Medina. First, they figure out how hard you can work, and they tell you that you're going to have Oisha v'Chavod, and then they said, this is how much you're going to work, never mind the Oisha v'Chavod. So that's why it's important in life to know what I need to know. I need to take off this time to learn and to daven and to spend time with my children, because if you start doing business with Paroi, first he tells you exactly. Yesh loimar, with onions, it's a similar thing. Take onions are bitter, but if you leave them weiter, it gets even worse. It becomes unedible. That's the way the Yetzer Hara works, and that's the way Paroi works. If you think it's bitter, but don't worry, it'll get a little better. No. The Yetzer Hara is not going to let up. It's not going to get better. It's bitter, and then it gets worse. It's bitter, and it gets worse. One more thing about the onion. We know that the Mittel Rebbe had a rule that every one of the Chassidim that came, that when they're traveling back to their town, they have to stop in every town and say Chassidus. If you came to the Mittel Rebbe, you had a rule that on the way back you have to stop in your every town and Chazak Chassidus. One of the Chassidim came back to Mittel Rebbe and said he has a problem. People love to hear the way he says over the Chassidus because he explains it very well. And wherever he comes, the whole town comes. And he feels gaiva from it. So he doesn't want to do it anymore. He asked the Shuls to stop chazing the Chassidus. So the Mittel Rebbe said, and this is a word that the Rebbe chazet many verbringens. The Mittel Rebbe said, Atzibel soll von der Weren, aber Chassidus soll's zu chazen. What does that mean? An onion, maybe it tastes delicious, but it stinks. You know, when someone just ate an onion, you talk to him. So he said, Atzibel soll von der Weren, Taka should stink. It's Taka, Gaiva is terrible. It stinks. Gaiva stinks, but it doesn't matter. That's the way it is. So the same thing here. So we have another remez. This Pesach, when you sit at the table and you discuss and you're looking for a new remez in the tzibula, so you have a new remez in the tzibula. Tzibula is all from the Veren, aber Chassidus is all stachazin. It's a very big lesson in life. So sometimes the Yitzhahara comes like this. He comes like this, the other way. He says, you're going to get involved. This is Gaiva. If you're going to do this, it's Yuado, it's Gaiva. You're going to come along as if you're the big tzaddik. Sometimes you have to outsmart the Yitzhahara. Yeah, I'm going to be a Baal Gaiva. I'm taking the initiative. I'm doing it because that's what Eibishter wants. And not good to be a Baal Gaiva. That's not the point. But despite the Yitzhahara trying to derail me, by saying you don't take this initiative on yourself because you're only doing it as a Baal Gaiva. But we'll deal with the Gaiva tomorrow. In the meantime, I'll do the good thing now, and the Gaiva will take care of Mitzvah Shem afterwards. So that's a new lesson that you learned from the onion for the night of the Seder.
Wait, isn't that in the Tanya?
No, it's not in the Tanya. It's a story that's brought from
okay. I love that Cibula story. However, Cibula is outstanding for your health. It's like garlic. It's outstanding for your health.
Okay, so everyone, when you tell over the word, the Mittel Rebbe should also the chaz over from our sage in Century Village. I
just add some. I just add it with eggs.
Okay, very good. Yeah.
By the way, it's interesting that you some of the brothers that before you had the meal, before you start matzah, you wash and you have matzah, right?
Yeah.
You're the reverse, like the dessert. What I mean is with dessert, if you have dessert by the meal, you don't have to make another bracha. As long as you have to tell that what it is.
And afikoim anat?
No, not with afikoim. I'm talking about the fact that kaflas you're eating before the meal.
Right, it's complicated. Right.
Right, it's the reverse of what
reverse. Yes.
What we do. So maybe I'm just thinking out loud. Sort of say maybe it's done that way because everything is everything is asked, right?
Right. Okay, that's what it is. Sure, that's the reason. That is the reason. Right. Okay. Someone asked me if he can give his dog kidneys. Someone asked if he can give his dog kidneys. So the answer.
This is America.
Yeah. So the truth is, I have the same. While the person asked, I said, "Oh, Takazoi, I have a bird in the house, and the bird eats chametz, and it's a big job because the bird gets all over the place, you know, and it's chametz gomer. So we already took away the chametz in the bird. The bird doesn't like it so much, but we take away, and we give sunflower seeds. So it's a shayla of sunflower seeds are kidneys. So the simple answer is yes, because the Shulchan Aruch says that you're not allowed to eat it. You're allowed to have anoah. You're giving it to your animals. It's anoah. The only thing is a funny thing. I'm doing a search on it because someone asked me the shayla, and I see the Rosh Yeshiva, the Chabad Rosh Yeshiva in Melbourne, who wrote a little piece somewhere.
You could sell the bird.
Why would you want to sell the bird?
You may not get it back.
That's complicated. And the food you're going to sell, you're going to feed the bird while you sold it. Okay, I mean, You could give him kidneys. You don't have to sell the bird. Take away the chametz. Give it kidneys.
Kidney is so bad.
So kidneys is not bad. The bird is gonna.
Oh, no, wait, kidney.
Yeah.
Delicious.
Yeah.
Never matzah.
No. Can't believe that. You have to give him some. So Rabbi Benjamin Cohen, the Rosh Yeshiva in Melbourne, has a funny shtickle Torah. He says, we know that the Rebbe brings that the Maral made a minig Shabbos Shida that you take the children and you tell them the story of Kriyas Yamsuf, and then you give them kasha to give to the birds, and you explain to the children that the birds were singing with the Yidden when they went out of Mitzrayim, and we want to show Hakaras HaTorah to the birds. So why are we doing it on Shabbos Shida? Why aren't we doing it on Shvi Shal Pesach? So he says, the Kitzur, he answers, you know why we don't do it on Shvi Shal Pesach? Because it seems like at least they thought that the birds love kasha. Now
That's a good kasha.
that it's a very good kasha because my bird does not like kasha. Every shot of Shivra, the kids try to give it kasha, and the bird refuses to eat it. The bird likes its the other food that we buy. But anyway, they thought that the birds love kasha, and kasha is kidneys, and you can't give it on Shvi Shal Pesach. But you could. So I don't know what Rabbi Cohen has in mind. But anyway, this is that. Still, but you only haven't got Noah. It's not a chila. It's only a Noah.
Why don't you disconnect it?
Oh, that's a good answer. Not because of kidney shabazat. You could say because it's a Shvi Shal Pesach. That's a good answer. That's not what he answered. That's a good answer. But that's not what he answered. Okay.
What birds do again, buddy?
What? They eat kidneys.
Yeah, but what they do by sheep?
They were singing with the Jews.
Right when
They were singing the Shida with the Jews. Yeah.
The hummingbirds were humming.
Yeah, they were humming.
Hummingbirds
Yeah.
hummed. And
So
why talk about
canaries were singing.
because you can't feed animals that are not yours on Yom Tov. You can't feed animals.
Only the yours.
Yeah. Okay. So now, so since you're not going to, so you're going to do Erev Yom Tov. So it's already not Boy Bayom, so you might as well do it on Shabbos Shida, which is earlier. I think that's a better teretz. Okay. Thursday morning, someone asked me, I should come daven in Yad Yosef, 7:00 minyan. I should come daven. So I went to daven. So he said, in Yad Yosef.
On Ocean Parkway.
And he asked me to come. He said he'll introduce me that RIshon was there for the tefillah. After the tefillah, gives a shir and then introduce me.
Yeah.
No, it's like Yosef.
Rabbi Yosef.
So Eliyahu's grandson, who is what's
he's
called
here
also,
now.
but that's he's a member of the Knesset.
He's here now.
So
Minister.
right,
That's Rabbi Rashi.
Rav Rashi. So he gave a shir. After shir, I gave him the sefer that we had on Alter Shulchan Aruch, and talking about the Kunz Sachin. Okay, so I just did a kud of what he had in the shir, which was a very nice word. He said that He said that there was a shaila. He was asked, a person. He's about tshuva, and his parents are not religious, and they're inviting him for the seder. And his mother says, "I'll buy all the things, badats, Eida Charedis, Revlanda, I'm buying you, but I'd like you to come to our house for the seder." So his question is, there's a person, and there's zero shmiras mitzvahs. So if they would have to go testify in Bezdin, they wouldn't be kosher la'edus. So if this woman would have to go in front of the court and testify, or her father would have to testify as kosher on something that wouldn't be believed. So now, could the son come to his table and his father's telling him that this is kosher? Okay, I'm not asking the question. Someone asked the question. You're going to say he can go into he's not nema. He's not nema. He's a not nema. It's a situation where he's not a nema. He's not nema. He's not nema. Okay.
No, the wine.
So what should we do? He's not. Huh?
We have to share about the Pesach program. But the Lord said that one of the mashmishim wasn't that
What did we say then? I remember we spoke about it.
We said it probably good because he has whatever.
He had an unbelievable. He had opposite mahalach over here. He said there was a story in the Gemara. He said there's a story in the Gemara. Ksubas that pay 8. that the Gemara says that Rav someone was supposed to make a shvua in the court, and Rav, his wife, came and whispered to his ear, "This lady, she lies for breakfast, lunch, and supper. She's a liar." So Rav was mahapach the shvua. Instead of her saying a shvua and becoming potter, he made the shvua on the other side, which some RIshon say means that he made the opponent make a shvua and take the money. Instead of her making a shvua that I'm potter from paying the money, so he was mahapach the shvua. The other guy now made a shvua that she's chayv, and he took the money from her. So he was mahapach the shvua. So the Gemara says that a papa was there, and the case that came up, he whispered into Rav's ear. So he said, "This guy, don't give him a shua. This guy he lies for breakfast, lunch, and supper." So Rav said, "You have another aid. You're aid echad." So he said, "But your wife, you listen to it." He didn't say it. The Baba Bamasa said, "You listen to your wife, you don't listen to the papa." So he said, "This was kimli begava, and this is loy kimli begava. I know, my wife, I know she never lies. The papa, I don't know." So it sounds terrible. So anyway, so Rabbi Yosef said, so we see there's a concept of kimli begava. So it was a very mechudesh dikavort. He said that if a person knows that his mother is very trustworthy, his father, kimli begava, he knows that they just want him to come to the seder. They're not the type he knows his mother for 40 years, 50 years. She never lies. She's a very straight person. She wants him to come to the seder. She says, "I'm going to get Eida Charedis, all the Chedim. I'm going to get you the cutlery, everything, Kosher Pesach, v'chulu." And he knows that he can trust her. So he can rely on it. That's what he said.
So it's an exception to the regular.
And then he said that he avoid from Rav Eliyashiv. That happens sometimes. A person doesn't remember, did I bench or not bench? Did I bench? He asks his wife, "Did I bench?" So l'choida, this is the chasofik deiraisa. If a person has a suffix, if he benched or not, he has to bench again. So how could he ask his wife when the woman, the shaila is a complicated shaila because the woman is a suffix if she's chayiv b'chsamazon. So I don't know why that in his mind that made a shaila. Why should her namanas be compromised? But his answer was that if he knows his wife never lies, so kimli begava. I don't understand the question, but I heard the answer. Okay, so so when I came home, I said, okay, let me look in the sugya. So Taka, I found that in the Achronim there's a discussion. Why did he not just trust the papa and trust his wife? It doesn't look good. So I found that there's a beautiful shir in front of Moshe, in the Dibris Moshe. He says, Palabatish, listen, he knew his wife very well, and he knew Bechazaka Gemura that every story she ever told him was true. He knew Bechazaka Gemura that she Pasha doesn't lie. And a papa, we know the papa from the Gemara, but Rabbi didn't know him. And the papa was knew him, but he didn't know him. That's okay. That's good. But the Rogachover says a different word. He says a whole pilpul. He says that there's a umdin of a dain. We have a lot of times in Shas that the dain himself, if he feels something is wrong, he has the power to. It's a very tricky din when you could do it, when you can't, and weird. But the bottom line is a dain is never allowed to say, you know what, these are the rules. You know what, press the button. This is the rule. That's the rule. If his heart tells him that this is wrong, he can't. He has to make sure that his heart tells him it's right. Now, not only by the book, it's right. If he feels that this guy is quickly saying a shua, no one knows that he's choshed al shua, but he has a feeling this guy is a little too quick. He's talking a little too like this and like that. He has to don din emes. Okay. Bottom line is that there is such a thing as the dying to feel in himself umdina shel dying. So he says there's ishte kegufe dami, and that's a pshat kimli begavo. Kimli begavo, that because she's my wife. So whatever she feels and I feel is al bazach. Like the story they said with Rabbi 11 that he went to the doctor and he took his wife and our
leg is hurting.
So the mamish like that. So say it again.
Our leg is hurting,
I didn't understand what you said.
Our leg is hurting.
My leg is hurting.
Okay. So that's what the Rogatchev is saying here. So her feeling, her umdana and his umdana is the same thing. Schenken a papa, he says that's not the same. So if you take the pshat of the Gemara, then the whole chiddush is in this battle. The whole chiddush was that this guy knows that his mother and father would never lie. So even though the apostle ate this, but there's a certain type of umdana.
It's an exception to regular.
An exception, right? But exactly, Ishtika Gufa doesn't apply to a parent.
By the way, he'd only be able to eat something cold because he can't trust the the clean the oven.
Right. Well, again, if she says I put it on self-clean, this is all part of the question.
Yeah,
it's all part of the question.
Trust her?
So he said yes.
Really?
I'm just saying that it depends how you learn the Gemara.
Yeah,
if you learn the Gemara that there's such a concept of Kimli B'Gavara that I heard someone would never lie that I could trust them, or you learn it that it was Ishteke Gufay, and that would.
Has to feel the family.
By the way,
Obviously, there's other ideas. A person could go into the kitchen and check if there's stock of the wrappers and so on. But I guess this was the question and this was the answer. I'm saying that this would be totally.
I saw a survey this we got 96% of Israelis will be joining a seder this year.
Unbelievable.
amazing.
Wow. Unbelievable.
80-something% stay for the whole other.
Wow. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Doesn't matter.
Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef wanted to know one thing. I said we did a siyum on the Shulchan Aruch, the Alter Rebbe, in the first Pelek, and that this is from the Shurim that we had. He wanted to know if we also covered the Kuntas Achronim, because the Kuntas Achronims are very deep. And I said, yes. Oh, I was very happy that we covered the Kuntas Achronims. And from the Alter Rebbe. Called me 12 o'clock. I should call you 12 o'clock. He called me. Okay.
See the rat to get back for me, no?
Sorry.
Next time.
Sorry.
Someone would kiss the sand.
What used to do doing this place? What is that?
Because that's why he felt it was like his umdana. It was the umdana of the Dayan himself.
That he could trust his mother.
That he could, but no, I'm saying that mother is not. You don't say Ishta Kegufa by mother. You only say it by a wife. Yeah.
You can tell us
Oh.
the kitchen.
Huh?
You can tell us the kitchen. Listen to it.
Right. Yeah, it's an unbelievable thing. Yeah. No, but she was Basa B'chista. You don't start up with Basa B'chista. There's a lot of stories in the Gemara about the daughters of Reb Chista. They were a pack of girls. No one started up.
They were tough.
No, it seems like Reb Chista. Maybe he only had daughters. It seems there's a lot of stories in the Gemara. Bansa de Reb Chista. So the daughters, they seemed to they were special. A bunch of special girls. Yeah, like Rashi and stuff. Okay. Maybe shall help which have nachas from all our children, sons, and daughters. We should have nachas from all the children of Klal Yisrael. Tonight is a farbrengen. We'll cover Yud-Alef Nissan. Rabbi Vogel is going to farbrengen. We're going to have a Sudas mitzvah. I'm not sure if it's going to be milchik or fleishik. Mitzvah we're going to send out a text and an email about it.
Don't forget to save the nust.
Yes.
Amen. Yashkoach.
Okay, bruchim to you.
David, have a good Pesach.
Yeah.
We're all going home this week.
Yes, we're all going home. Right now.
Are we?
Just a quick question.
Let's see. Yesterday.